Hi there, I'm Bill Boggs. Do not go anywhere. Profiles is coming right up. Hi there, I'm Bill Boggs and welcome to Profiles. Today we're going to turn the tables on longtime host Mickey Burns, discussing a long journey, a 500-episode journey of profiles. And of course, we're going to be talking about some of the incredible highlights that had to occur during 500 episodes. So after a short break, I'm going to welcome back the man of the hour, or actually I should say the man of the 500 hours, Mickey Burns, to his own show, In That Chair, on Profiles. Well, welcome back, folks. You know, so many things start with a phone call. The phone rang, it was Mickey Burns, and now I'm implicated in interviewing him on the occasion of his 500th show. What an honor. Mickey, thank you very much for inviting me to, I mean, you could have had a lot of people doing this.
Yeah, but Bill, you know, we go back to the Fox days.
So here I am.
No, we go back to the Fox days, and anybody that interviewed Sinatra is certainly
good enough for you.
Is certainly good enough.
I
for me.
really appreciate that.
And of course, you're a New York legend.
I don't know about that. You know,
and you've interviewed the newsmakers of our time. So it's an honor having you here today. I hope I can hang in there with you.
Well, you're going to go beyond hanging. We're going to run through this together like the great athlete that you were, and I was hobbling behind you. So let's really look at the title of the book, because that is essentially the germinating essence of your life.
Yes. From
the projects to profiles, a memoir.
Yep.
My unlikely journey to success as a TV host in New York City. You've had massive success, Mickey. 500 shows with all headliner celebrities.
Thank you, Bill.
But the DNA
Yeah.
of the projects is still in you and is carried through.
Yes.
Explain that to your viewers.
Yeah, I think that, you know, coming from the meager beginning that I did.
South Beach.
It was the South Beach Projects, Staten Island, New York. My father was a soldier in World War II, and after the war, they were in their 30s trying to make a go of it, and housing was limited, as were jobs after World War II. So we ended up in the projects with a lot of other families. The one thing we all had in common was no one had any money. But there were a lot of life lessons to be learned along the way, and that's what I write about in the book.
The book has so much in it, and just the story of your life and how you accomplished what you accomplished and the rules you set for yourself. And then as we will on this show, trace through the many interviews and what you picked up from the people, but then your own lessons in life that you share with people. But there's one thing that I was wondering about, having read the book.
Yes.
You said your father was a drinker, a smoker, and a gambler, but you never really indicated the effect that kind of loose lifestyle had on you and your family.
Sure.
Your mother
and Bill, that's a good question, and I briefly mention it in the book. And because he had some of these vices, which were not uncommon back in those days, think of like a Humphrey Bogart personality. Everyone smoked, everyone drank, and a lot of people did gamble. But I saw the negatives that those vices can and did create in our family.
Okay. So back to the DNA question. What's in you now that has carried you from the values?
Yep.
The values, the lessons, the discipline.
Sure. I think coming from the projects, the one thing that's in your DNA, because you're economically in the lower tier, it's not easy to get out. You have to figure a way out. But most of my life, starting with the projects, I had this burning desire to feel that I measured up. So in order to measure up, I felt I had to work twice as hard to get my foot in the door and to be successful, because we didn't have any connections. There were no silver spoons. To somehow work your way through this maze of society with not a lot going for you.
Well, you know what? You said one thing in there, it was three words. I had to get out.
Yeah, I used to ask my mother all the time. I'd say, Mom, how do you feel about me going to college? Because no one in my family had been there before. And she would always smile and say, that sounds wonderful, but you're going to have to figure out a way to get a scholarship.
Right, and you did.
And I did.
So let's trace through a few things.
Yes.
Mickey Burns, athlete. You had an athletic career,
Yes.
Academic athletic career,
Yes.
and a professional career in athletics as a coach.
Yes.
Take us through that period of time. I mean, viewers who've watched you through 500 episodes may or may not know a lot of these details.
I'm sure they have no idea, Bill. Yeah, but that was, I figured out early on that athletics, being that I inherited my father's athletic genes. He was a great baseball player. And I realized that might be my way out. I went to a high school on Staten Island that was a perennial city
Big
powerhouse.
high school.
Big, New Dorp High School.
You walked in there, that gym had a lot of bigger kids, a lot of potentially faster kids.
I thought when I would go to high school, I would obviously be the next big star. So I ended up going to the gym that first day of practice, and there were like 500 kids sitting there with the same idea I had. The next big star.
I'm going to make the team.
So, yeah. Now I have to figure out, well, how am I going to get ahead of this competition and maybe earn a spot on this perennial powerhouse? So in those days, we had late session for freshmen, which was 11:30 in the morning. You started. So I used to get up 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, go to the park and do sprints, push-ups, sit-ups, agility exercises, anything I could do.
Before school.
Before school.
That's
so I could create an edge amongst the competition that was going to try to get my spot.
Did you have any major injuries in high school?
That's
what I always worried about.
I didn't. I was very fortunate.
Good.
I played 4 years in high school, 4 years in college, and with no serious injuries.
Right.
And I remember upon graduating from Missouri Valley, which is the college I went on a football scholarship, I got a letter from Vince Lombardi.
I've heard of him, Vince Lombardi.
Who was in his first year of coaching Washington Redskins. He sent me a beautiful letter asking me to attend tryouts.
Yeah, good.
And I was already enrolled in graduate school, and I said, and that was the exact question I asked myself. I said, you made 4 years of high school, 4 years of college without any serious injury. You might make it in the pros, but you may be left with lifelong injuries. So I wrote him a nice letter thanking him and said, I'm going to pass. And the following week, I started graduate school.
But on to graduate school and on to a career of making some money.
Yes.
From athletics.
Right.
Tell us about your coaching career, Mickey.
Well, when I went to school, graduate school, my heart was to get into broadcasting like you were in all those years. Yeah. But it was BC, which is before cable. Before cable. So your opportunity was very limited. It was ABC, CBS, NBC, and that was it. Yeah. And Fox locally. So I said, oh man. So I realized that the progression to get where I wanted to be was going to be a difficult one. So instead, I came back and I started to teach and coach at my old high school.
The school teacher to broadcasting,
yeah.
Gradual transition.
Yeah. Had some friends who were working at Fox with you.
Channel 5.
Yeah, Bill McCreary was a friend, I played golf with him. Richie Murphy was a camera guy, great guys. Richie one day said to me when we were playing golf, my partner is going on vacation. Would you like to come in and be, because I knew sound equipment through the band.
Oh, right.
So it was a natural
sound equipment.
So I said, I'd love to try it. So I went in and I became the sound guy.
So you were the on-location sound technician.
We were out on the
crew,
in the field.
On the crew.
We were on a news crew,
right.
Doing the 10 o'clock news and getting
Bill
features.
McCreary, God bless him.
Yes.
Really became your mentor.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to talk about in athletics and your career before you came to the show.
Yes.
But I want to just fast forward for one moment.
Yeah, that was good.
How do you take the discipline that you demonstrated all your life and apply it to what became the success here on Profiles?
You know, as I know, the most important part of being a good interviewer is preparation. It's the same thing as being a good coach. If you don't prepare your team and prepare yourself for what you're going to be competing against, you're not going to be successful. Same thing in an interview. I'll share one brief story with you.
Plenty of them.
And I know you probably had him on your show many times. Christopher Plummer.
Once. I had him on the show once.
Yeah, I had him on my show once.
The great English actor. Oldest man to
win an Academy Award in '88 or something like that. So the week before the interview, one of my assistants gave me a packet of information about him. And they said at the top, there's a link to a radio interview. I think you should listen to it. I did. The interview was from a small radio station in Ohio. The interviewer asked Christopher a couple of questions. The reason that he was on the show is he just finished his autobiography. And about 3 questions in, Christopher Plummer stopped the interviewer and said, "Excuse me, son, did you read my book?" And the interviewer, in his best Jackie Gleason, hummada, "I've been meaning to, but I haven't yet." And with that, you hear a click.
He hung up.
Hung up on him. Yeah. So I said, "Man, that's disrespectful not reading that book." So I read that book, and I started off that interview with Christopher Plummer by saying, "Christopher, may I read some quotes from your book?"
And he knew you. That's good.
"God bless you, my son." Yeah. And he was all in at that point. So being prepared as an interviewer, as a coach, as a player, it's the key to success.
So I read the book,
Yep.
which was a pleasure, and I enjoyed it very much. I want to transition into the show. I mean, we're on profiles, and like everybody else who's asked me, the question I get asked the most is, "Who's your favorite guest?" Likewise for you.
Yeah.
So your favorite guests: Tony Orlando, Smokey Robinson.
Well, both of the ones you just mentioned are in the top 10.
Top 10.
In both cases, when we had Smokey Robinson, I'll tell you a quick story of why he was one of my favorites. Weeks prior to the interview, the assistants, publicists that you had to deal with all those years, kept saying to me, "Mickey, you got 24 minutes, not a minute more." I could live with that. That's fine. So here we are the day of the interview, and I had read somewhere that Smokey was struggling as a golfer with his putting. So the crew got together, we chipped in, and we bought him a putter.
That's mighty nice, yeah.
You know, but we do things like that.
That's good.
We want to develop relationships. You know, we just don't want to do the interview and say goodbye and never see you again.
That's mighty good.
Yeah. So before we start the interview, the crew got together. We bought you this beautiful Odyssey putter. Maybe it'll help you with your putting. I didn't think he'd be as touched as he was, but he was so thrilled. He said, "You know, I've been doing this for 50 years. Nobody gave me anything. You know, it's the first time."
I believe that.
Yeah. He said, "Lucky you get something to drink." Anyway. As we're getting closer now to the 24-minute mark, I see out of the corner of my eye this assistant
Frantic.
That's been reiterating, "You got 24 minutes, you got like that, doing that." And we're getting, the interview was fabulous. And he's telling story after story about Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder. I said, "This is wonderful, you know?" Smokey spots him out of the corner of his eye, stops the interview. "Tony, sit down." He said, "I'm talking to my brother Mickey, and I'll tell you when we're done."
That's good.
So Tony sits there like a little mouse, and we went on and did a 2-part, 2-episode
Good for you.
interview. One of them won a Telly Award.
Good for you.
And he was wonderful.
Well, how about Tony Orlando? Another one in the top 10.
Tony Orlando.
Why?
Because he wanted to give something that people weren't aware of. He wanted to tell
during the course of
the course of the year. I want to give you something, and it's something they never heard before.
And what was that?
That was when he did his first show on CBS. Jackie Gleason was his guest.
Wow.
During rehearsals, he made a racial slur.
Gleason did.
Gleason did, of the 2 girls in Dawn. It was Tony Orlando and Dawn.
Right.
And Tony called him on it. "Jackie, you're out of order. I expect you to apologize for what you just said." Jackie,
that's a gutsy thing. I mean, Gleason's this big, powerful character.
Biggest star on television at that time.
Big star.
So Jackie Gleason stormed out of the studio.
For being confronted, yeah.
Yeah, no, you don't tell me why. Who are you? You're just a snot-nosed kid. You're not telling me what to do. So
they figure he's gone.
He's gone. You lost the biggest star for your first show.
Yeah.
So they were trying to cover their bases to get somebody else to take their place. Later that day, as they were rehearsing, Jackie Gleason showed up in Tony's dressing room. "Is this my script?" Tony said, yes, sir, that's your script. Jackie Gleason said, "Open it to the first page." "I apologize, Jackie Gleason."
That's nice.
And he said, then they became friends, and Jackie called him before every episode that he ever had on television.
Wonderful. What kind of rules or boundaries do you have, do you have, when interviewing celebrities, about getting into their personal life?
I think you need the ability as an interviewer to sense when they don't want to talk about something. Do you press them on the issue, or do you move on to the next question? A lot of times if you press them too hard, it'll destroy the interview.
Yeah.
They won't want to give you anything else. Can I give you another example?
Oh, that's what we're here for.
It's very similar to this. I had Robert Wagner on the show. And
let's review. Robert Wagner, movie star, married twice to Natalie Wood.
Yes.
Still suspicious circumstances around her death of drowning. Go ahead.
I was shocked. I had to ask him this. I said, because you married Natalie Wood twice. Yeah. The first time they separated was because allegedly she was having an affair with Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
In his first autobiography, he wrote that he was so incensed by this that he waited outside Warren Beatty's house for 2 days with a gun, with every intention to kill him.
Jesus.
And I said...
Jealousy. Ooh.
Wow. Oh, yeah. And I said, was this accurate? Would have you, if he had come out? And he said, yeah, I was that angry. I was a little surprised because there's still suspicion
of violence.
Of violence
Yes.
with Natalie's death.
And Christopher Walken on that boat.
I mean, they were ready to reopen the case.
I know.
And I said, I'm surprised that he's admitting that he was that angry.
Wow.
And he was willing to give that information. He wasn't shy about it.
Very interesting.
Absolutely.
Can you recall, Mickey, being intimidated
Yes.
by a guest? And
Yes.
who might that guest have been?
Dr. Maya Angelou. You know, when I was sitting opposite her, you get the feeling like in Wayne's World, you know, I'm not worthy.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, I'm way over my head here. But if you're prepared, really prepared, you can survive.
Yeah, but that's why preparation is the key.
It's the key.
Engelbert Humperdinck was a guest you liked a lot. This is
He's a regular guy.
I've seen a lot of singers in my life.
He's
I have never. How he picked this name, Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah.
That story, and just again being with Engelbert.
Yeah, he was interesting because he would talk pretty much about anything.
Yeah.
He was quite a ladies' man.
That's his romantic image.
His romantic image, you know, and in his autobiography, he said that he had made love to over 3,000 women. And I said, Engelbert, is that accurate? And he said, let me put it to you this way, less work for my wife. And I said, and your wife's still married to you? Yeah, we're still in love.
Like Tom Jones. Tom Jones, like really a womanizer, I hear.
Yes.
And he's been married to the same
woman for 100 years.
100 years. Mary Wilson from the Supremes is somebody who really impressed you. It was a woman who's keeping the legacy of the Supremes alive. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just had her on a show again about 3 weeks ago. And, you know, I think the question that everyone wants to know regarding her, she is keeping the legacy alive, but why don't we see a Supremes reunion tour? Right. There's so much money involved in it.
Huge.
And the problem is that, according to Mary, Diana doesn't want to pay the other members of the Supremes equally.
Look about how happy the public would be. How people would go to bed at night having seen the Supremes, because people who already have millions need more millions.
Yeah,
That's a shame.
and it's a can't-miss tour.
That's a shame.
So, you know, she said it's most likely not going to happen because of Diana, and she wants all the money.
Right. Well, continuing along with celebrity stories and impressions, Jesse Ventura talking about his bicep.
Well, you know, he's crazy. Jesse is crazy, but I think he's also a genius. But he said when he was doing Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, they were doing it in Central America in the jungle, there was some talk about who had the biggest biceps on the set. So Jesse said every morning Arnold would go work out. He had a workout trailer. And Jesse would find out when he was there, when he would come like 15 minutes early, douse himself with water like he's been there for an hour or two. And Arnold would see him and say, oh my God, I better get up early tomorrow because Jesse's working harder than I am. And it turns out Jesse's arms were bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger by about an inch.
That's cool. What a story. And Arnold couldn't have liked that.
Couldn't.
He's so competitive. And how about Eli Wallach, one of the many, many actors whom, I mean, we're so close to Broadway here in the Algonquin Hotel. You know,
Yes.
lure them over. But how about Eli Wallach?
Yeah, I think what he represents for me is that almost with every interview that we've done on Profiles, there's almost a life lesson to be learned within that interview somewhere. After, and not necessarily during the interview, it could be before or afterwards. Yes, and afterwards he said to me, Mickey, take a walk with me. And I said, it'd be my honor. I'm walking up Broadway with Eli Wallach. That's a good day. Wow. And he was holding like a Pathmark plastic bag. And I said, Mr. Wallach, what's in the bag? And he said, a pair of shoes. He said, that's where we're going. We're going to the cobbler, and he's going to repair them for me. And I said, and I thought I was being funny. And I said, Mr. Wallach, with all your money, why don't you just go to Macy's and buy 10 new pair? Yeah. And he grabbed me by the wrist, stopped me in mid-stride, looked me straight in the eye, and he said, Mickey, where I come from, I grew up in the Depression. And he said, back then, you know, we didn't buy new, we fixed old.
Fixed old.
He said, I've never been able to shake that.
Well, Mickey, when you were growing up in the project,
very similar.
What about your sneakers and how you fixed them?
Same thing. It was the same thing. I mean, we didn't have money to buy new ones. We had to fix the old ones. So what we used to do was cut out cardboard where the holes were coming through, and that would buy you a couple of more, put them in like Scholl's inserts, and that would buy you a couple of more weeks with the shoe. Yeah. When I was in high school, my senior year, my last game, the sole started to rip from the body of the shoe. And
the sneaker, right?
No, the football cleat.
Football cleats.
And we had one game left, and at the time I was running for the city scoring championship. I was tied with another fella from DeWitt Clinton High School in the Bronx. But it never even dawned on me, Bill, to go to my parents and say, I need a new pair of shoes for one game. Yeah.
So what happened? What happened with the shoe?
Well, we taped them. We taped them up so that I was able to play with them.
Good, Mickey.
One other life experience that I learned from Dion. And I wanted to
Dion DiMucci, Dion of the Bellmans? I was just listening to Run Around Sue 2 days ago.
The Wanderer, all those great tunes. You know, you get in a position where we were interviewing him on his 60th birthday. And he had a guitar. And I said, I wonder if he'll play us some of this stuff during the interview, unplugged. I said, that'd be fabulous. And lo and behold, interview started, he's playing all these great new tunes that he just had written. Yeah. And then I had to ask him the tough question, which, you know, had to do, which was, he was part of the...
You have three performers, Ritchie Valens, Buddy Holly, and the Big Bopper.
Right.
Who went down in a plane crash.
Right. Well, that was part of a tour throughout the Midwest that he was part of. And he was saying, so I asked him, I said, you were part of that tour. And from being happy and playing, he became very pensive. And he said, the heater on the bus broke down. And he said, people started getting sick. So Ritchie Valens chartered a flight to the next location and approached Dion and said, listen, we have a chartered flight and there's room for one more. Would you like to join us? So Dion said, how much? And Ritchie said to Dion, $36. Dion thought for a second. He said, I pass. Well, why would you pass? You know, we'll be there, get a good night's sleep. He said, because my mother's rent in the Bronx is $36. Wow. And she would never forgive me for this indulgence. He said if it was 35 or 42, he would have taken that flight.
Wow. Mickey, the last few pages, I should say several, the last several pages of your book deal with asking many, many notable people what they would like their legacy to be. Yeah. What would you like your legacy to be?
Wow, that's a tough question, you know. But I do hope that after 500 episodes of Profiles, that along the way that we've entertained people.
Oh, sure.
And in some cases, inspired them, and maybe even inspired them to be better. That would be great by me.
Here's to 500 more episodes, Mickey. 500 more.
Well, Bill, thank you so much. And when we get to 1,000, I'd like you to come back and be the guest host once more.
I'll come in here. I'm ready to roll.
It's been an honor having you here
It's
today.
been an honor, a real honor doing this, Mickey. Thank you.